sun-drenched Saturday in August, a search team gathered around an abandoned mine shaft.
There were dangerous areas in the national park.
They found the body of Erin Corwin, who had been missing for 2 months.
They met in high school, they married young, they moved to a place where they didn't know anybody.
She appeared kind of lonely.
This is a story of love won and lost.
A lot of drinking took place there, and they're very young. They were all very, very young.
Of jealousy bordering on obsession.
They seemed to be extremely obsessed with weapons and blowing things up.
We discovered a set of tire tracks.
And ultimately, murder in the first degree.
Hi, I'm Nancy O'Dell. Today's Crime Exposé takes us to 29 Palms, California. This city in the high desert is home to the Marine Corps Air Ground Combat Center, and it was here where a tawdry and twisted story began, which ended in murder and a body being found in a mine shaft.
They sent the camera down, and it was at that point that we noticed a pattern of clothing and what appeared to be a portion of a human body.
The 19-year-old wife of a United States Marine lay crumpled at the bottom of an abandoned mine shaft, 125 feet below the ground.
2 firefighters rappelled at 2 different times. One rappelled down, attempted to secure her body and secure any evidence that was down there. He eventually got sick because of the lack of oxygen, had to come back up, and another firefighter went down. And they were eventually able to recover Erin and several items of evidence.
At first, it was difficult to identify the body.
Unfortunately, Erin's remains were so decomposed, being in the elements. One would think at 125 feet below the surface that it would be like a cooler area with shade, but that's not the case. It's actually hotter than the surface inside those mine shafts.
How had this vibrant young woman with her whole life ahead of her drawn her last breath in the middle of this arid dust bowl? For the answers, we turn the clock back 9 months to a sunny autumn in California. John Corwin, a Lance Corporal in the United States Marine Corps, arrived at his new assignment, the Marine base outside the remote city of 29 Palms, and traveling with him was his wife, Erin.
They met in high school, they married young, he joined the Marine Corps, they moved to a place where they didn't know anybody.
The Corwins moved into a small apartment building on base, where next-door neighbors quickly became fast friends.
They're like a college dorm, almost like a married dorm environment. They'd have barbecues, a lot of drinking took place there, and they're very young. They were all very, very young.
Forced to adjust to an unfamiliar reality and a husband who was often away from home, Erin did the best she could.
She didn't know anyone here. She appeared kind of lonely.
So how does she keep herself occupied?
She loved horses, so she found this horse ranch.
Meanwhile, her dream of becoming a mother hit a serious snag, one that equally agitated her husband.
Earlier in the year, they'd had a miscarriage. It deeply affected Mr. Corwin.
But Erin was pregnant again.
And he was very happy that she was pregnant again, and they were going to have a baby in the family.
Things were looking up for the Corwins. Then early on a Saturday morning in June, Erin gently woke her sleeping husband to tell him she was heading out for a while.
She was planning on going out to look for areas for her and her mother to hike because their mother was coming to visit.
Did she tell John exactly where she was planning on going?
She wanted to go out and explore some hiking areas in the Joshua Tree National Park, which was just south of the 29 Palms area.
At this point, John had no idea that anything was amiss.
He was asleep. She woke him up and she told him she was leaving. He rolled back over, went back to sleep, didn't think anything more of it.
All seemed well, but 2 days later, John Corwin contacted the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department and reported his wife missing. She had driven away in their car on Saturday morning and never returned.
So what does law enforcement typically do in a situation like this?
Whenever we get a missing person case that's related to a hiking area, you have to assume that there might have been a medical emergency.
Deputy sheriffs visited base housing to gather information. They met with John Corwin and then chatted with his neighbors.
Then went next door, knocked on the door of Chris Lee, asked if Chris Lee had seen Erin Corwin. Chris Lee told them that he didn't know anything about her or where she was.
A rather strange response, since Chris Lee and his wife did indeed know John and Erin Corwin. The two couples have spent a lot of time together socially. More on that later, because the county sheriff's office is about to receive a phone call that reveals some critical data.
Erin's vehicle was found off of a dirt road a few miles north of the national park.
There were several homeowners in the area who had spotted it early Saturday morning, and it was still there 2 days later.
So that was pretty far from where Erin planned to go hiking. When you inspected the car, did anything turn up?
Shoe impressions were located that appeared to be leading from the driver's side of Erin's vehicle to what we discovered was a set of tire tracks that had traveled inward from the road and had circled around near Erin's vehicle, near the rear of her vehicle. And it appeared as though her shoe impressions had walked towards the passenger side of the vehicle that came into the area.
So were there any scuff marks in the dirt or anything that indicated a confrontation had taken place?
It was very likely that Erin got picked up by somebody and she entered their vehicle.
Erin left her sleeping husband for a mysterious rendezvous in the desert. So whom does she meet out there? So far, the only person who might know what happened is also the only real suspect in her disappearance.
Nothing truly alarming came out except when he started to discuss the relationship between his neighbors and him and his wife.
John Corwin, an active duty Marine, is the lead suspect in the disappearance of his young wife.
He was very calm, sort of stoic. You know, if somebody's not truly upset, you get a little bit concerned there, especially when you're talking about a spouse.
Erin Corwin had an appointment in the California desert. She abandoned her car and departed the area in another vehicle, never to be seen again.
The sheriff's department launched a ground search in an attempt to find the young woman. Erin could be lost or injured, or worse.
We had deputies driving the area. We worked with the Joshua Tree National Park staff. They conducted some air search with our aircraft. Nothing truly alarming came out except when he started to discuss the relationship between his neighbors and him and his wife.
Neighbor Chris Lee had originally stated that he didn't even know Erin Corwin, who lived right next door. This turned out to be a lie, and it wasn't the only thing off-kilter about Chris Lee.
He seemed to be extremely obsessed with weapons and blowing things up.
Being defiant appeared to run in the family.
Almost immediately, Lee's wife became uncooperative with investigators. She was telling us to leave, that we had no business being at the location.
What was going on between these four so-called friends? If they were hiding something, they were running out of time because the sheriff's office was cranking up the intensity of the investigation.
The homicide detail got contacted.
So why did the sheriff's office switch this case from a missing persons case to a homicide?
She had not utilized her bank account. She had not utilized her phone. The station level investigators decided that this might need a deeper investigation. So that's when we in the homicide detail got contacted.
I know you acquired search warrants to look at the phone records. What'd you find out?
Approximately a week prior to Erin's disappearance, Christopher Lee, he went with a friend of his into the national park. His friend was taking photographs to the mine shafts of the national park.
There was 1 week between Chris Lee's recognizance of mine shafts and Erin Corwin's exploration of hiking trails. There was no direct connection, except that they had planned to explore similar terrain.
Joshua Tree is a vast, vast desert, and there are literally thousands of mine shafts.
After chronologically lining up the cell phone photos that Chris Lee's friend had taken, investigators assembled a search team and began a long, slow survey of the desert floor. The days dragged on, 2 months, 100 mine shafts, and nothing turned up. Then, at the bottom of the last mine on their list, the search team found the decomposing body of Erin Corwin.
So many people would think maybe Erin just fell into the pit, but you found some strange items near her body.
At the bottom of the mine shaft next to Erin were 2 tires, a makeshift torch, a propane tank, and on top of her body was a Sprite bottle.
And when the search team examined the body, they realized that Erin had been murdered.
Well, they found a garrote that was wrapped around her neck and twisted and actually caught up in the back of her hair.
So go over each piece of evidence with me, the tires. I understand that Chris Lee had actually searched how to dispose of a body.
When he discussed with investigators the best way to get rid of a dead body was putting a body under tires. Tires tend to burn for a long period of time and they incinerate the body.
Okay, so let's move on to the propane tank. I understand this relates to Chris Lee again and his interest in weapons.
He told the friend that morning that he was going to try to throw the propane tank down a mine shaft and blow up a mine shaft.
And finally, how about the soda bottle that was thrown down in the bottom of the mine shaft?
The Sprite bottle had DNA from both Erin Corwin and Chris Lee.
We know that Erin and her husband John were expecting a baby, but their goal of becoming parents, as with all of their hopes and dreams, died in the desert on a lonely Saturday morning.
The body was so decomposed that we just could not tell if she was in fact pregnant. There was no actual fetus that could be found.
Doesn't mean she wasn't. It just means if it was fairly early on, the decomposition process would have obscured any evidence of that.
The Corwins and the Lees, 2 married couples, 4 supposed friends, and a curious excursion to nowhere.
Everything was leading to a horrible ending for Erin Corwin. We knew that. The family essentially knew that.
From an underground mine that once bestowed precious metals, a new discovery more valuable than silver or gold, the body of Erin Corwin.
But looking into John, he had told us that he and Erin had married young. They met in high school. He joined the Marine Corps. They moved to a place where they didn't know anybody.
During his conversations with the sheriff's office, John Corwin admitted that his marriage to Erin had run into a few roadblocks.
They had some rocky portions in their relationship, as with most marriages, especially at the beginning when you're talking about a young marriage.
In addition to suffering through a miscarriage, the couple was struggling financially. But things were looking up. At least John thought so, especially since Erin was pregnant again.
It had issues earlier in the year, but they were working through them and had gone to marriage counseling. And that he believed she was pregnant, and he was excited about that.
But Erin was cheating on John with his friend, fellow Marine and next-door neighbor, Chris Lee.
He had stated that they had maybe kissed a few times in the past. Nothing further had occurred between them. They were very good friends with each other at one point, and that his wife had found out. She was really upset.
Over time, we started getting closer, having longer conversations. And then we kissed a few times at her place. And then my wife, she found out and she blew up.
Later, when pressed, Chris Lee admitted that the affair had progressed beyond small kisses and hand-holding.
He claimed that it was physical, that they in fact did have sex, and that he knew she was pregnant at the time of the murder.
Meanwhile, Erin's husband had found out about the affair, but thought it was all in the past.
John was under the impression that was done, and they were moving on with their life, expecting a new child, and had no reason to believe that anything other than would have existed.
But the baby that Erin was carrying was probably not her husband's.
Erin Corwin had told her friend that she believed she was pregnant and that it might be Chris Lee's.
Those objects that the search team found at the bottom of the mine shaft, their intended use suddenly became crystal clear.
We believe that he brought the torches and the propane tank to try to cause some sort of a fire to destroy evidence at the bottom of the mine shaft.
Oblivious to all of this, Erin Corwin had met Chris Lee in the middle of that dusty field, excited about her future and hoping for the best.
It was her belief, unfortunately and sadly, that Lee was possibly going to propose to her.
However, Chris Lee wasn't thinking along those lines at all. His enlistment was up, He was getting out of the military and he was moving to Alaska.
He knew that Erin Corwin was pregnant, and he knew that it could be his child. And he knew that Erin wanted to move to Alaska with him. And he knew that he had led Erin on to believe that they could have a relationship in Alaska. And he also knew that his wife and child were not going to take kindly to that.
And so, Chris Lee chose the only course of action he could think of.
He had to get rid of her. In his mind, that's what he had to do.
So what actually happened then when Eric and Chris met up in the desert?
It was kind of a tense conversation. He approached her as she was facing away from him, crying, put the garrote around her neck, twisted it, and turned to where he was in a back-to-back position and hung her over his back.
When Erin was dead, Chris hurled her body down a nearby mine shaft, along with the car tires and other objects that he needed to hide. Chris Lee then took off to Alaska, but he couldn't hide there forever. Law enforcement caught up with him, and he found himself back in California facing a judge and a jury.
He was charged with first-degree murder with the special circumstance of lying in wait. That is, he essentially waited for an opportunity to act, made the decision to kill. Once he saw the opportunity that he could kill, that's when he did it. The first day of testimony, I could characterize him as sad. I think he did try to cry, but it didn't work. There were no tears. It was just crocodile tears. I made my own garrote. I actually went to Home Depot and bought the items and made my own, and I obtained a dummy. And I had him get off the stand, and I had put the garrote that I made into his hands and had him demonstrate how he killed her.
And Chris actually testified that he had strangled her for 5 minutes. So is it true? I understand that during the simulation, you actually cut the time in half because that visual was so intense.
I saw jurors crying. There were tears in their eyes. A lot of jurors wouldn't look at him anymore as he was doing it. They were looking at the ceiling.
So what were you trying to get across to the jurors?
It was crucial to show that this was premeditated. He thought about life, he thought about death, and he chose death.
After this horrifying glimpse into the mind of a murderer, the jury found Chris Lee guilty. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Erin Corwin cultivated a love triangle, thinking that new companionship might possibly solve the problems in her marriage. But instead, she learned, and all too late, that illicit romance can be destructive. And she paid for that new knowledge with her life. And now it is time for today's Safety Spotlight. The tragic case of Erin Corwin underscores the significant risks that can arise from intimate partner violence, particularly when infidelity is involved. Pay attention to your partner's behavior and reactions, especially if there are signs of possessiveness, jealousy, or aggression. If you notice any red flags, or if the person has a history of violence or threats, take extra precautions. Seek the advice of therapists or counselors who can provide guidance on managing relationship issues and personal safety. And if you are in an abusive relationship, call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE or visit thehotline.org. Was Corey reported missing before her remains were found?
No, she had not been reported missing.
Her hyoid bone was broken, which is consistent with strangulation.
We just all sat there in shock.
Everyone knew her. She was very gregarious, outgoing.
She's the most beautiful person I've ever come across.
A young 28-year-old who just had her whole life ahead of her.
Did you ever fear the case might grow cold?
There was that fear that it was going to turn cold at any point.
This is the kind of thing that when they tell you be careful, walk with a friend.
Hi, I'm Nancy O'Dell. Today's Crime Exposé takes us to the San Bernardino Mountains of Southern California. An area known for its majestic scenery became the unlikely setting for a tragic mystery when an unidentified body was discovered on the edge of a steep ravine. Detectives spent months following confusing clues before an unexpected lead would take them straight to the killer's doorstep.
It was 2:20 in the afternoon on February 16th when the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department was notified of a gruesome discovery on the highway.
Somebody that was going south or downbound from the mountain had pulled over, and when they did, they saw feet protruding from a trash bag on the side of the hill.
First responders and sheriff's detectives raced to the scene, but the rainy weather was making it difficult to process any evidence.
And when we first arrived, I could see tire impressions in the turnout, and they quickly started disappearing from the rain. From the very beginning, it was frustrating because I knew that we were losing evidence because of the weather.
Despite treacherous conditions, detectives determined the victim had been murdered elsewhere.
It appeared from the exterior that this would be considered a body dump where the crime may have occurred somewhere else. The victim was transported there and dumped.
As investigators considered how best to preserve what little evidence was left, they knew they had to act fast.
The remains were on a slope, and there was water gushing over them, and our concern was that they were going to slide further down and then eventually drop potentially 1,000 feet below into the wilderness areas.
So the first thing we did was call the coroner and have the body removed. We transported her to the coroner's office so we could remove the trash bags in a controlled environment and preserve any evidence that may be there.
Fingerprints made it possible to identify the homicide victim as 28-year-old Corey Desmond.
Was Corey reported missing before her remains were found?
No, she had not been reported missing. That's one of the first things we checked, and she had no criminal record that we could determine. So we were essentially kind of dumbfounded with what we had on our hands here.
Corey lived 80 miles away from the San Bernardino Mountains in Redondo Beach.
It started as obviously a mystery. Why was this young woman from 80, 90 miles away, beach community, why was her body found in the way it was found in the San Bernardino Mountains?
Autopsy results showed Corey had been strangled to death.
She had some cuts in her mouth, consistent with somebody maybe smothering her. Her hyoid bone was broken, which is consistent with strangulation. And I believe there was petechiae in the eyes, also consistent with strangulation.
There was also evidence suggesting she had been sexually assaulted.
Corey's pants were down past her knees. The pants were unclasped. The zipper was undone. So that's why we believe that there was evidence of sexual assault.
But the rain had washed away any physical evidence. Investigators knew the next steps would be the most taxing, making the 80-mile drive to Redondo Beach to give Corey's loved ones the devastating news.
Corey's dad was just in shock, as any father would be. You just learned that your 28-year-old daughter was murdered and left like a piece of trash on the side of a highway. So he was shocked and angry, extremely upset, wanted answers. And I can remember he had told me he was not going to let his daughter's case go cold.
She was walking west on Artesia away from Back Street, and the video I saw, she appeared steady on her feet.
News of Corey Desmond's murder sent shockwaves through the tight-knit Redondo Beach community.
I'll never forget the day it happened. It just destroyed everybody, honestly. It crushed the entire South Bay.
It had really shaken that community because everyone knew her. She was a bartender. She was very gregarious, outgoing. And, it obviously shook some people that this young woman could be killed in this way. And really, at the beginning, they had no idea what had happened to her.
We just all sat there in shock.
Her senseless murder seemed unimaginable to those who knew her.
I think she's the most beautiful person I've ever come across. She had a lot that she wanted to do. She wanted to better herself, better everyone else. And we'll just miss that.
Detectives hit the streets of Redondo Beach to learn more about Corey's whereabouts before her murder.
We're looking at the bars, we're looking at the restaurant she worked at. We're asking the Redondo Beach Police Department to assist us because it's not our jurisdictions.
Investigators got their first big lead when Corey's Jeep was spotted on McKay Avenue in Redondo Beach.
It was parked near a storm drain. We towed it, brought it back to San Bernardino County, and had it processed with forensic examinations, and there was no sign of a crime occurring in the Jeep.
Corey was last seen by friends on Valentine's Day, February 14th.
She was at work at the restaurant, bartending, and it was shortly after about 9:00 p.m. She left the bar and mentioned to some people that she was possibly going to go meet some other individuals at another bar, which was called the Backstreet Lounge in Redondo Beach.
Detectives learned Corey had been at Backstreet Lounge until closing, and she was seen arguing with a man.
What we found out was this individual was apparently being rude to somebody else. She decided to step in and give her 2 cents. And it was a brief interaction. They're having a disagreement, nothing of extreme, but they're having a disagreement, enough for people to notice.
The lead seemed even more promising when investigators learned the man lived across the street from the bar.
It was a little concerning for us because he had left before Corey. So the first question is, well, if this individual left before her, could he have found her out there on the street?
Detectives obtained a search warrant for the man's home and questioned him at length.
He was able to tell us where he was, and it was confirmed through other witnesses that he was in fact not involved in her disappearance.
Security cameras in the area offered more promising clues when Corey was captured leaving the bar around 2:24 a.m.
She was walking west away from Backstreet, and her gait was fine. She appeared steady on her feet. She wasn't staggering.
As detectives studied the grainy footage for clues, they noticed a yellow cab passing Corey and then pulling to the curb.
And so we initially think, oh, well, maybe she just got a cab. So then we start digging into that.
It was another dead end for investigators.
It was quite frustrating because that was the last time we got her on camera, was walking past that area, and then she just disappeared. We had nothing more further to add to that.
Investigators caught a break when a friend of Corey's offered them another important lead. She said Corey had made plans to see her at work at another local bar called Bogey's, but Corey never made it.
The bars had closed at 2 a.m. and they're not allowed to allow customers in. She asked if she could go in and use the restroom, and they wouldn't allow her in. That's the last time that anybody that knew Corey saw her or heard her alive.
With nowhere else to go, investigators turned to the public for help.
It was very publicized, and the news crews were all over Manhattan Beach, Redondo Beach, interviewing people.
Did you ever fear the case might grow cold?
After several months, there was that fear that it was going to turn cold at any point. The thing that kept it alive was Corey's father. He had a billboard established right there on Artesia Boulevard. So everybody had pretty much look at that every time they drove past.
50 billboards offering reward money were put up throughout the South Bay area. Thousands of bumper stickers were distributed.
They were on a manhunt, and the community pushed. We all pushed, all our friends and everybody.
So as a result, did police receive any new tips that would help with the case?
I received word that a female, at the time was unknown, had called in a tip saying that she believed that an individual by the name of Tony Perez from the beach area was involved in Corey's murder. The problem was they never left a callback number.
So a stranger held the key to solving the case.
She was scared. She didn't know if she was doing the right thing. She was making an accusation about her live-in boyfriend, who was also the father of her child.
Corey Desmond's murder case was going nowhere when an anonymous tip from a woman came in claiming a man named Tony Perez might be involved in the brutal crime.
We tried to identify Tony Perez, which is a very common name in Southern California. Without a better approximate age or something a city. We couldn't narrow it down. There was just too many.
The caller did not leave any contact information, so investigators pursued other leads.
Then, several months later, we received another call from a female.
I spoke to her. She was scared. She didn't know if she was doing the right thing. She was making an accusation about her live-in boyfriend, who was also the father of her child.
Detective Newport made arrangements to meet her in person.
She was very distraught, looking over her shoulder, continuously asking me if she was doing the right thing.
She said Perez had been behaving strangely. She could time his odd behavior to the night Corey disappeared.
On the night of Valentine's Day, Tony Perez did not come home until early hours in the morning. He was supposed to come home earlier in the evening. He didn't.
Perez made it home at 4:30 a.m. the next day.
A few days later, this Tony Perez was cleaning his vehicle, which he had never done before. He's cleaning out the interior portions of the vehicle, and she is witnessing this, and she's realizing that something's just not right.
And then after that, he called her up one day and says, "Hey, I traded in the Durango." And she thought that was highly unusual because the Durango only had 3 more months worth of payments on it and it would have been paid off. And then he bought a used white Ford Excursion, and she said, the cars appeared similar. They were white SUVs. And she thought, why would he trade in the car like that?
And Perez's behavior only became more suspect.
She said that he told her, "Hey, let's take the kid out of school and let's go up to the mountains in the snow." While en route, he pointed out a turnout and told her that he thought that that's where they had found that girl that was killed in Redondo Beach. And she thought, wow, that's kind of weird that he would know where that turnout is.
Through researching Perez's records, detectives were able to track down the 35-year-old's car.
The vehicle was traded in a car dealership and then was resold to an individual in the beach area. We were able to obtain a search warrant. We made contact with that person that owned the Durango, and we had the vehicle towed to the crime lab for processing.
Did you find any incriminating evidence in the car?
Yes, once we conducted that test in darkness and utilized the ultraviolet light, we noticed that there were 2 large areas on the passenger side floorboard that had lit up.
The test results indicated the possible presence of blood.
And the detective, he actually removed the seats. And when he did, he found a toe ring under one of the brackets, and the toe ring had a speck of blood on it.
Corey's family confirmed the ring belonged to her.
I knew at that point that we were onto something. There's just coincidence that that vehicle that he sold had her toe ring in it. There was no indication that he knew Corey, according to Tony's girlfriend.
The car's carpet was cut out and sent to the lab for testing.
And what did the test results reveal?
The carpet from the vehicle tested positive for Corey Desmond's DNA.
Investigators now had enough evidence to obtain an arrest warrant, but they decided not to tip their cards.
We played his ego a little bit, and we told Tony Perez that he'd be helping the investigation tremendously if he came with investigators to the sheriff's headquarters.
Amazingly, he agreed to answer questions.
After several hours of speaking with Tony Perez, he finally began to admit that he had some more detailed knowledge about the murder of Corey Desmond.
Investigators listened intently as Perez described his evening after he left work as a restaurant chef.
What Tony said was that on Valentine's Day at his work, they had a dinner and everybody was there and they had been drinking and everybody left. And when he left, he was coming home. He parked near his apartment and fell asleep.
After he had fallen asleep for what he believed to be several hours, he woke up, got out of his vehicle to go inside of his house, looked down and saw a female lying under a streetlight on a sidewalk.
He told investigators the lifeless woman he found on the sidewalk was Corey Desmond.
Tony Perez claimed he walked up to the female and stuck his finger under the female's nose and did not feel any breath and realized the female may not be breathing.
So at that point he got scared and thought that people think that he hurt Corey. So he decided to put her in his vehicle.
He didn't call police because he was scared, and which is not a normal reaction.
Perez then left Corey in his car.
And he covered her. And he said that he went to his apartment and he went to sleep. And a few hours later, he woke, and he went down there and he looked in the car because he thought maybe he was having a bad dream. And lo and behold, there was a body in the car still.
Perez said he simply went back to sleep, and the next morning he drove to work.
While en route to work, he said he stopped at a grocery store and he bought some black trash bags.
During his break, he placed the garbage bags over Corey.
And then it was later that night he had decided I had been up to Big Bear before, so I'm going to go ahead and dump the body off of the highway.
So was there any part of his story that made sense to you?
When she was located, she had no shoes. Her pants were pulled down below her knees, open, and there was evidence of potential sexual assault. His story just simply is not believable. That's all there is to it.
Investigators had heard enough.
As soon as we concluded the interview with Tony Perez at Sheriff's Headquarters in San Bernardino, we placed him under arrest for the murder of Corey Desmond, and we booked him into the county jail.
During his trial, Tony Perez claimed Corey's murder had been a terrible accident, but the jury did not buy it. After a day of deliberations, he was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to 25 years to life in prison for Corey Desmond's murder.
This was a young girl who was college educated, that was working as a bartender, who did nothing to cause her own death. This is the kind of thing that fathers worry about with their daughters, that mothers worry about with their daughters. When they tell you be careful, walk with a friend, this is why.
This case was solved because of the constant media attention and a concerned citizen doing the right thing and calling police when she suspected her boyfriend. Corey and Tony Perez did not know each other, and initially, there was no physical evidence linking him to the crime. And now it is time for today's Safety Spotlight. Corey Desmond's case highlights the importance of maintaining vigilance and safety when going out, particularly late at night and in social settings where alcohol might be involved. Here are some practical safety measures to consider. Try not to go alone. Always stick with a trusted group of friends. Have someone accompany you to your car. Never walk alone. If something or someone feels off or makes you uncomfortable, trust your instincts and move to a safer location. It's better to err on the side of caution. Prioritizing your safety and staying alert are key to avoiding potential hazards and getting home safely. For all of us here at Crime Exposé, please join us next time and stay safe.